What is going on, guys? Joe here with redmanpie.com, and this here is the Apple Watch. And today I'm giving my first impressions and see if it's worth even picking one of these up. So I've been using this little guy right here, the Apple Watch Sport, for a little over 2 weeks now, and I think I'm ready to give you my first initial impressions of it. This is not going to be my full review. Do stay tuned for that, but I wanted to wait a little longer than a few days to give you my first initial impressions of this thing here. So this is going to be Apple's first smartwatch. So if you're an iOS user, this is going to be something you may want to consider, maybe or maybe not. But today, I'm going to give you some thoughts on the Apple Watch, along with some good stuff and some bad stuff, and just something that you can consider before you actually put down the money on getting one of these. So the Apple Watch that I've been rocking on my wrist is gonna be the Apple Watch Sport, the space gray, as you can tell, with the black sport band. It's gonna be the 42mm. Now when the Apple Watch initially released, I picked up the 38mm with green sport band. Now I found the 38mm be a little too small for my wrist. I don't have that big of wrist. I would say I have like medium-sized wrist, and the 42mm is actually something that I prefer because I do usually like rocking bigger watches like G-Shock faces and things like that. As far as the 38mm, I find that one more ideal for ladies' wrist. So if you have smaller wrist, I'd recommend the 38, but maybe you still prefer a bigger watch face like the 42mm. Definitely recommend checking it out at the Apple Store and trying it on first. That way you can get an idea of what it feels like and what it looks like on your personal wrist. Now the first thing that I want to cover is going to be battery life. Is it good or is it bad? Now when Apple announced the details as far as battery life goes, Apple claimed that it's going to have at least 18 hours of battery life, whether it being like regular use or heavy use. Now of course 18 hours is all depending if you're a heavy user or just a regular user or a very light user. You can get more hours or less hours. Me personally, I've actually had great battery life from my Apple Watch. I could easily go a day and a half with just one full charge. Now that's coming from me being a regular to heavy user. I'd say maybe a slight heavy user. I wouldn't call myself an extreme heavy user on the Apple Watch. I do receive notifications, reply to text messages every now and then, and notifications is probably gonna be my most used thing on this watch, along with the fitness and the music application. Now I'll get into that here in a second, but my most used thing on this is going to be just notifications. So I'm able to receive, of course, text messages and reply back using voice dictation. So from using those type of things, I saw myself getting a day to a day and a half of battery life. So I do often charge my Apple Watch at night just so I can have a full charge if I know I'm going to be doing something all day the next day. Then I go ahead and charge it. But if I know I'm gonna be at home, working from home or something like that, I sort of don't bother of even charging it. I just try to go to its full potential of battery life. And I saw that I got more than a day and a half. So that's great news, but of course we really wish that you can go like a full week on just one battery charge, but we probably won't see that for a couple of more years. Now there is a cool little feature called Power Reserve that you'll be able to set on your Apple Watch in case your battery is getting low and you know that you're not going to be able to charge it anytime soon. You can use Power Reserve mode and preserve your battery. It will also notify you when you do get to 10% if you want to put it to Power Reserve mode. That way you can, of course, preserve your battery. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the fitness application. So the fitness, I actually use that quite often because I work out on a regular basis, and this has actually been able to keep up with my goals and things of that sort. Now, of course, I've been using it for about 2 weeks now, and I'm taking advantage of this every time I go work out. And what's cool is that it's able to track your workouts and also how much you moved. But I'd say one annoying thing is going to be the fact that it always notifies you if you're being lazy. So for example, when I'm here working at my desk and I sit there for longer than an hour, it will actually pop up and say it's time to stand up. That gets quite annoying, but there is an option that you can turn that little feature off. But it does kind of remind you to get your ass up and do something. Now you'll be able to track all of your calories, and with the fitness app on your iPhone, you'll be able to go back and see what progress you've made, whether it's how many calories you burned the last day or the last week when you're wearing your Apple Watch, and things of that sort. So it's pretty cool because you can track it all on the fitness app. Now during my workouts, I tend to listen to music. That's pretty much every single time I work out. I can't really go hard in the gym without my music. So a cool feature about the Apple Watch is that it's a standalone music player. So that means you'll be able to import music onto your Apple Watch and leave your iPhone in the locker room or in your gym bag. Leave it out of sight so that way you don't get sidetracked like most people do at the gym with your iPhone, but you can still have your music. Now the way to actually play your music is going to be via Bluetooth headphones. So you will need some Bluetooth headphones. And the headphones that I use are going to be these Bluetooth Jaybird Blue Buds X. These are dope headphones. Now one thing that I don't like is the fact that you can only sync over one playlist. So that means you'll have to put all your favorite songs into one playlist instead of being able to add multiple playlists, and that way you can pick from either playlist on your Apple Watch. Now I have one playlist called Gym, and that's where I have a lot of music that I want to listen to while I'm working out. Now hopefully with a future update, they're gonna allow multiple playlists. Now the Apple Watch is able to be customized. And when I mean customized, I mean actually the bands. You'll be able to replace these easily. The simplicity of it is quite nice. Compared to other smartwatches on the market, it's pretty difficult to exchange the bands. But with the Apple Watch, you'll be able to change them easily. Now the Apple Watch Sport does support all the bands, whether you want to get a different colored band, or if you want to get a leather band, or if you're a fan of link bands, you can get those as well. Now, one thing about that is the fact that they're expensive. They get pretty pricey. Now, when Apple initially announced their Apple Watch, I was really skeptical about this little digital crown on the side. I really didn't think it would be useful, and I thought it looked very weird. But after my first 2 weeks of using this, I actually find the digital crown very useful, especially when scrolling through text. You don't have to swipe on the screen because with that, you may have big fingers, or whether if you have small or big fingers, the screen is pretty small on the Apple Watch. So when using your finger, it'll cover a majority of the screen. So with using the digital crown, it gives you an easier way to scroll with still being able to see all of your screen. Now the Apple Watch also supports the Maps app. Now this of course has to be done with your iPhone alongside with it. You won't be able to use Maps without your phone, but when using it, I found this pretty cool little feature, or I mean, it's something that you'll know when you actually use it. So when I was driving and using my Maps app on my Apple Watch, it'll notify you when you need to turn. Now something that I find really cool is the fact that it sort of is like a blinker. You can actually hear it and feel it. So when you're approaching a turn, it'll actually tap you and also sound a signal like if you're turning or if you turned on a turn signal on your car. It was pretty weird, but pretty cool at the same time. And that brings me to another thing with the haptic feedback, which is gonna be the way it vibrates on your wrist. The way it feels, it's pretty creepy. It literally feels like someone's tapping you on your wrist. It may be creepy at first, but after a while you get used to it. Now I found that pretty cool, but I do wish that Apple has an option to actually raise the haptic feedback. Now you're able to change the haptic feedback whether you want to lower it or higher it, but I wish you were able to higher it a little more because sometimes I tend to not feel the haptic feedback because it's so gentle on your wrist. I do wish that there was a option to raise it even higher so that way I can feel like a stronger vibration on my wrist. Now I know I've been talking a lot of good stuff about Apple Watch, but the Apple Watch is by far the perfect smartwatch. Now we're going to talk about glances. Glances is something that I initially thought that you'll simply raise up your wrist and glance at a certain thing. That's not actually what glances is. Glances is going to be a feature where you swipe up from the bottom of the clock face and then you'll see all of your glances. So you have things like your music player, your heart rate monitor, and your battery life, and your activity calendar, weather, all of that, and you're able to add more through the Apple Watch app. Now, even though that's not really too time consuming, I kind of imagine glances being something way faster than swiping from the bottom up on your clock face. Now, I honestly wouldn't know how they would go about that as far as what type of glances you want to see at a glance. Maybe doing some type of gesture where you flick your wrist twice or something, you'll be able to see your glances without having to swipe from the bottom up. Now something else is the ability to change timeout. Now there's no way to change the timeout settings on your Apple Watch because when you do activate your Apple Watch on your watch face, it's gonna time out within 6 seconds or so. After that, you'll have to tap it to turn it back on or simply raise your wrist once again. Now, even though I understand that's gonna save some battery life the way it's already set, I wish there was a setting to actually change that in case you want a little more time to view what time it is. Now that doesn't just go for the watch face, but when you're in an application, it will time out around 15 seconds or so. So again, you have to tap on the screen or raise your wrist once again to see what app you're on. So maybe in the future, there'll be a setting where you can change your timeout time, whether it being in your apps or on your watch face. Now, something else that I wish that Apple Watch brings in the future is gonna be native apps. Now, without your phone, you're not really able to do much on your Apple Watch. That is because when you enter an application, it first has to run through your iPhone and then transfer it over to your Apple Watch. So without your iPhone being connected through Bluetooth on your Apple Watch, you won't be able to access like Instagram or any other application of that sort. Now, I did find out that you'll be able to still send messages through iMessage on your Apple Watch if your iPhone is still in the same network. So that means if your iPhone is on one side of the house and your house is pretty large and you're on the other side, maybe in the kitchen or something, you'll still be able to receive your notifications on your Apple Watch as long as your iPhone and Apple Watch are on the same network. So that was pretty cool. And I find that useful because sometimes I just want to leave my phone elsewhere, even though I know that I have my Apple Watch on my wrist. The next thing we're going to talk about is charging. Now, even though the Apple Watch is very simple to charge with a magnetic charging cable that attaches to the back of the watch magnetically, I really wish Apple came with a dock, sort of like the Moto 360, because Moto 360's way of charging is by far my favorite way of charging a smartwatch. Now, there are a lot of third-party manufacturers that do bring this to the table. Now, the last thing that I want to end it with is gonna be the price on this. Apple Watch is nowhere near cheap. It starts at $350, which could be quite expensive for many out there, and it's quite expensive for a smartwatch if you compare it to other manufacturers out there on the market that already have smartwatches. They retail for around $199 to close to $300 or even $300. The Apple Watch goes beyond that at $350 for the 38mm Sports and the 42mm pricing at $399. And depending if you want the Apple Watch, which is going to be the steel version, that one starts at $549 for the 38mm and $599 for the 42mm. Now, it doesn't stop there, because if you want a different band with your steel Apple Watch, you'll be paying more and could go up to $1,200. Now, if you thought that was expensive, if you want to ball out with some gold or some rose gold, Apple has a watch for you as well, and it's called the Apple Watch Edition, starting at $10,000 and can go up to $17,000. That is a lot of money. So like I said, the Apple Watch is nowhere cheap, even the base model starting at $349. So overall, that's gonna wrap it up for my first impressions after 2 weeks using the Apple Watch. I've been using it quite a bit every single day, and I wanna give you my full thoughts in a future video. So do stay tuned for our full review on redmanpie.com. But I have a question for you guys. Do you find something like this useful in your life? Or will you be even getting one? And if you have already got one, let me know what your favorite features are so far. But anyways, go ahead and hit that like button if you did enjoy this video, as it not only supports the channel, but it lets us know that you enjoyed the video. And lastly, if you feel like being awesome, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. But other than that, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll catch you all on the next one. All right? Peace.